I think that it's closer to being a good deal than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But at the end of the day, it is a real big gamble for the Buffalo Sabres.
The big one hits last night. JJ Peterka finally traded. Frank Saravalli had been saying forever, he's getting traded before the draft. And then there was a lot of, well, the Sabres don't think they want to, they don't want. And Saravalli was like, this guy wants out so badly, they're moving him. And they do last night in a very interesting trade. Peterka goes to the Utah Mammoth. 77 games played last season. He has 27 goals. He signs a 5 years times $7.7 million extension. We will get into that. And in return, the Buffalo Sabres receive Michael Kesselring, a 25-year-old, 6'5" right shot D who really established himself as a top 4 guy last season for the Mammoth. Or hockey club, I should say, became a little expendable because of all the guys that Utah has returning from injury. And Josh Doan, son of Shane Doan, 6'2" forward, who split time between Tucson, right? Mm-hmm. Tucson and Utah last year, AHL and NHL. But Sabres get big in this trade. Utah gets a star young forward in this trade. And I think the headline is, this deal goes down. Utah gets their guy without giving up that number 4 overall pick. I think it would have made a lot more sense to me if this trade was, say, Michael Kesselring in the 4th overall pick. But this gets done. We all know that GMBA is a legend of the game. Everyone says fleece when they see this. And I said, wow. You said, wow. You said, wow, with the big thing in the group text. I said, wow. I didn't say fleece. Just your initial thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think that people are crushing the Sabres for this. And to a certain extent, it's for good reason. But I also think there are 2 elements here that push me away from fleece. I think that people are overrating JJ Peterka a little bit as he currently stands. Like, he has room to improve and become a more complete player. But right now, I feel like people are overrating JJ Peterka just a little bit. And I also think that there are a lot of non-puck knowers who underestimate Michael Kesselring and what he'll be to the Buffalo Sabres. So for those 2 reasons, I think that it's closer to being a good deal than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But at the end of the day, it is a real big gamble for the Buffalo Sabres. And I think the value is off in favor of Utah a little bit.
It's another trade where the Sabres send out the best player in the deal.
Yeah.
And I am not opposed to giving up the best player in a deal. Sabres have more good players today than they had yesterday, but it's burned them so many times in the past. We're burying the lead here. Sean DePaz, your favorite player on the Buffalo Sabres, got traded for the person you hyped before I ever even heard of the guy, Josh Doan, and I'm only kind of kidding there. How pretzelified is your beautiful American brain?
Quite. I was like floored last night. I didn't know how to react. Not because like I think I said like earlier yesterday I didn't think they were going to trade JJ ultimately. So I was a little caught off guard. But yeah, I mean it's pretzelified is a good way to put it, because I am very happy that my as I like to call them, my team who stepped up got better. And so it's a very mixed feeling, but I'm happy that like this saga, like another disgruntled player who wants out, I'm happy it's over.
There are like 50 thoughts that we are going to run through on this trade, but let's begin with the Utah angle, because Utah did get the biggest star in the trade. They add him, as I said, without giving up the 4th overall pick. So on Friday, they now have the opportunity to add another young player to a group of very good young players, or they can still flip that pick for somebody. And you know that GMBA loves to make trades. I keep saying GMBA. It's very un-New York Times of me. Let me first say Bill Armstrong, and now on subsequent mentions, I can call him Mr. Armstrong. But Mr. Armstrong loves to make moves, and take the young defensemen that they have out of it, because they do have a lot of young defensemen. JJ Peterka, who is 23 years young and signed up for the next 5 years, is now added to a young forward group in Utah that already consists of Dylan Guenther, who's 20 years old and had 27 goals last season, is beginning an 8-year deal. Logan Cooley, 21 years old, 65 points last season. Barrett Hayton, 25 years old, 20 goals last season. Don't forget Daniil Boot is coming in this year. He's just signed his entry-level deal. He's an absolute giant who just won over in the KHL. And now, yes, JJ Peterka added to that. This team is brimming with young, like star-level forwards. Watch the hell out for the Utah Mammoth.
A lot of skill, a lot of talent, offensive firepower. I do worry about, like, they don't have a ton of size or grit up front. And Peterka is not going to bring that. I do think he's going to be an awesome fit in Utah in terms of adding another fun player to that mix. They're going to be one of the most fun teams to watch in the NHL next year, I believe.
Now, they lose Michael Kesselring, and Pete is the chief Michael Kesselring person on the planet. But I think just from watching Utah, we learned last year, and a lot of it was due to injury, but Michael Kesselring had to step up, had to play top 4 minutes, but established himself as a top 4 defenseman. So on the Buffalo side of it, they are getting someone who's going to make Owen Power, I think, so much better. And that's great for them as they need to figure out their own shit with what they're going to do with Bo Byram. But for Utah, absolutely can afford to lose him.
Yes, especially with Simishev coming up. You mentioned Daniil Boot. I mean, Simishev's a left shot, but they have a wealth of talent in that kind of player on the blue line.
The big thing is that Durzee's back for a full season.
Right.
Marino's back for a full season. You'd love to have Michael Kesselring, but Michael Kesselring is not a third pairing defenseman anymore. Correct. So let him grow, give him a chance to thrive. And yes, their defense now: Mikhail Sergachev, left shot; Dursey, right shot; Marino, right shot; Oli Mata, don't forget about; Simishev coming in, left shot. And Simishev, this team has been excited about this guy for a while. They re-signed Ian Cole, you can't forget.
Sick.
And Valimaki, this is a very good roster that has the 4th overall pick. So big get. I want to hit the contract for Peterka. It's 5 years. It's $7.7 million annually. That only buys out 1 year of free agency. And he's going to now hit unrestricted free agency at 28 years old. I know that he didn't want to be in Buffalo. He didn't love it. There was talk that he wanted to be in a bigger city, which we can refute now that he goes to Salt Lake City. I know that people in Buffalo were losing their minds over that, but
most people in Buffalo haven't been to Salt Lake City.
What do you mean by that?
I think
Salt Lake City's better than Buffalo.
Yeah,
but
think so.
If the argument is he wanted to play in a bigger market, mission
specifically,
failed.
but Utah kind of feels like a bigger market to me. Feels like one than Buffalo does.
Maybe,
and he's German. His definition of big city, what he's looking for in that sense, might be a little different than America.
This is how we can pivot the conversation to the Sabres, because this is a player who A, did not want to be in Buffalo, B, is clearly trying to maximize his value, which great for him. It always hurts when the Sabres send out a star player, but this to me makes more sense. Unfortunately for the Sabres, all of the times they send out a star player, it kind of makes sense, because he didn't work out here. He's demanding a trade. He wears a C and is going to absolutely crater this franchise if you don't get rid of him right now. And in this case, 23 years old, unhappy. As we find out once he signs his next deal, that he's kind of all about the money, which is absolutely great. That's fine. But it makes it make a little more sense to me that they got rid of him. Because my thing always, Sean, with the Sabres in Peterka was he's 23 years old. If he's unhappy, just be good by the time he hits his prime, which should not be hard. You have 3 years to just get a little better. He's going to keep getting better, and then you'll all be on this run together. But now I kind of get why it's over there.
Yeah, I mean, my pushback to the waiting thing, I guess, is you're probably not going to get better if the players on the team don't want to be there. So at a certain point, you have to move on. It's unfortunate that it's just the next chapter in a long string of the Sabres doing this, as you alluded to. But it's clear that the franchise needs to turn a page, and they have for a while. So I am fine with their strategy being, if you don't want to be here, get the fuck out. We have to set a culture.
I'm gonna
But
ask,
the question, the culture might be the reason why he doesn't want to be there, and that's my
Yeah,
problem. That's the thing that I keep circling around is that like they did not want to trade this guy. They did not, and they kept saying it over and over again. He signs a deal immediately arriving to Utah, and what does that say? Like that, I feel like that is a damnation on Buffalo. That this guy is 23 years old. Kind of fits into their timeline, should want to be there, but he's just the latest in a long line of players who have been shipped out of Buffalo after being drafted and developed and kind of grown into a core role, but then they have to trade them for whatever reason. And that to me is like, there's something in the water there that's a problem. It's a product of dysfunction.
you mentioned the drafting and developing thing. I'm intentionally going to ask you this question so I can watch Sean's face as you answer it. He's the 34th overall pick. They take him in the second round. They do everything right. Like this, JJ Peterka is an NHL draft success story. A bad team with a high pick in the 2020 draft takes a kid out of Germany, and he is an absolute star. Somebody who, if there were a redraft, goes probably first, second, third, fourth, fifth in any sort of like this is a win. This is something the Buffalo Sabres did something to which other teams should aspire, yet it ends the same way it always does with the Sabres. How can this, Pete, be the last time this happens in Buffalo?
Well, I mean, number one, win. That winning creates a positive environment and a positive culture. But also like having a good structure in the organization, good facilities, good leadership, good culture, all of that. Like feed your players' souls when you draft them and develop them. That keeps them happy. Winning keeps them happy. All of that is missing in Buffalo.
The biggest thing is winning.
Yeah.
It's Stanley when he's negotiating his new contract with Michael, or when he's thinking of leaving, and he's like, is there anything, money? Is there anything that we could, money? Like, it's replace money with winning, even though JJ Peterka just went and got money and he's setting himself up to get a lot more money. This has to be the last time. I don't think it's going to be the last time, but this fucking has to be the last time. I need it for my Sabres people.
Winning creates culture. Culture creates winning.
Ooh, yes.
So that's what I was going to say.
And they don't have either. They're not
like,
doing either.
It's like you talked about like it being a damnation on the Sabres. The Sabres have been like so deep into hell of the last decade that like at this point, it's like, I don't think you can damn the Sabres anymore. We know what they are. So like this happening is not surprising. And I think, like I said, they're at a point where they need to just, like earlier on, I think there were beds that they made, but like at this point, they need to just cut ties with these kinds of players so they can change that culture. Because I think that changing the culture, in theory, although the Sabres haven't done either of much over the last decade, should be easier to change than winning.
I'd like to apologize. I left T. Jaginla's name off the list of great young forwards that Utah has. Let's talk about the package. They get Michael Kesselring, who, as I said, I think we all agree is like you pair him with Owen Power, and suddenly you have fewer Owen Power problems. You're not supposed to have any Owen Power problems. But
I don't know. I think Sabres fans are going to have a time with that pairing. I don't think these are either like particularly defensively responsible players.
Kesselring?
Yeah, like
Kesselring is.
I mean, Kessler, but yeah, part of Kessler, like there's a large chunk of last season where Kesselring was basically not, like the second half of last season where Kesselring was basically not an NHL player and is like, can be an adventure on the blue line. Like I was talking to PD and Craig last night, and they obviously know him very well. And like one of the things they said is like he makes a lot of mental mistakes, and that is not necessarily, I wouldn't say mental mistakes are the problem with Owen Power, but he can get pushed around a little bit, and I just feel like that has the potential. It can be very exciting at times. Like they are two very skilled players, but can also be a very frustrating experience at points. This season.
I think his job there is going to be like kind of hang back, be the responsible one there. Let that guy do the stuff.
I mean, we're relying on a.
But Kesselring can do the stuff. There's a clip going around.
That's what I was going to say.
Of him absolutely murdering JJ Peterka.
Like we're relying on a 25-year-old who has just spent really his first season in the NHL. to be the reason that our $8 million first overall draft pick can be a reasonable NHL player. It's not encouraging. Like, I still think ideally they add another right shot D-man. I don't think that changed that pairing in particular, but like, I like Michael Kesselring. I think it fills a hole, but I am not confident that is going to be like a tremendous second pairing. Like, I think it is going to take some time before it gets to a D pair that you can fully trust.
Okay, so say they're the idiots who go out and sign Aaron Ekblad. Then Michael Kesselring maybe is playing on your first pairing with Rasmus Dahlin, which will be positively awesome because Rasmus Dahlin is there with a defenseman we've heard of.
I just am not that confident in Michael Kesselring yet. Like, I like him. If Michael Kesselring is playing on our first D pair, the team is in trouble.
Okay, well, Kesselring, it seems, was the guy that they wanted, and we'll find out what Doan is. I worry that Doan, like, if Doan's a good NHL player, this trade is fine.
Doan, to me, is a much more
sure thing
known entity. Like, he's not, I don't think, doesn't have nearly the ceiling Michael Kesselring is. Like, he was a borderline NHL player, bottom six player, but I think he plays his role very well. And he's a fucking Doan. Like, he is the most
dog.
He's like the nicest, most professional, like hardworking kid I have ever met. So like, I think that is like you know what you're getting there, and you know what he's going to be able to do for
culture
you.
thing though, like dog.
Like he seems like the kind of player that might be impervious to the Sabres poison. Because I mean, it's not like his dad did a whole lot of winning. Like, he knows what losing is like.
He's got losing in his blood.
That's right.
To a certain extent. I mean, Shane Doan was good. Shane Doan was good, but I think he knows more of the process of like, you're not going to win every day immediately.
Now, let's discuss the value of this because someone sent a tweet to me last night, and I was like, yeah, I understand. Because I was saying, like, I don't hate this trade for the Sabres. And someone tweeted at me, I don't know if you have it, Sean, that, let me see. Kesselring and Doan are the type of players that the Sabres should be targeting, but giving up JJ for them is bad. I would get where a Sabres fan is coming from there.
I would take a bad out of there. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's
you
great.
shouldn't have to trade JJ Peterka to get those guys.
And that's
where the value's off.
Like, one of my big takeaways from this is that it makes it clearer what else the Sabres have to do. Like, they clearly now need to add a top six forward, whether that's through free agency or trading Bo Byram. But if they trade Bo Byram, then they also have to add a right shot D-man. So, like, it's clear that those are like the two things they need to do.
Michael Russo had this in The Athletic, that they turned down Marco Rossi plus for JJ Peterka. So when I say that seemingly Kesselring was their guy here, or maybe Doan was their guy, I would assume that Kesselring is their guy. But
size was their guy.
Yes, being big was their guy. The Wild offered, and this is from Michael Russo in The Athletic, the Wild offered Marco Rossi as the starting point in any package and were willing to include another roster player and or prospects and picks, but the Sabres weren't interested in adding another undersized forward, even though Rossi was so blah, 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 blah. Now, this is where it gets tough for me because the Sabres clearly aren't done, as you said. They have Bo Byram to trade. They have the 9th overall pick that they could potentially trade.
Or keep. I don't think it's going to go well if they do, but I don't think it's a guarantee they trade him.
They've got Konstas Helenius on the way, but he's no giant himself. He's, I think, 5'10", 5'11", or something like that. So maybe I don't know what they do with that. But if they're making a trade, Rossi was who I was thinking before I saw this report, but seemingly they don't want Marco Rossi. Okay, take him out of there. Elias Pettersson. The Canucks are apparently very bullish on Bo Byram, which would make sense because they need a young defenseman, maybe, to build around going forward. And then the third one, here's the most exciting one. What about Jordan Kyrou?
Yeah, I've seen that talked about. The Rossi thing is that's going to hurt for a while. I think because like one of the things we talked about is like I understand if generally you want size, but I think Rossi was like the Sabres' first line is the perfect place to put a player like Marco Rossi. We have
I'm not sure if that Marco Rossi is a first line center.
Pete hates Marco Rossi.
I don't hate him. I just don't know if he's. I don't know if I'm sold on him being a first line center on a good team.
I think he would be. That's fine. The Sabres aren't good.
Yeah,
like I think he'd be a first line center on the Sabres, and I regardless, I think that's a good spot for him, like alongside a massive play driving wing. Like I know Tage plays center, but he was better last year on the wing. So like, and the fact that that was just the start of the package, like there was more coming.
So, but what it sounded like was that there was more in terms of like assets,
Yes.
like draft capital or prospect. And what I'm gathering from this trade and also the Savoy trade last year, the Sabres seemingly want to have more sure things in their organization. And whether that meant like Kesselring and Doan gives them 2 NHL roster players for JJ Peterka, whether the value is not fully there, they get 2 good players who they can insert immediately and become a better, not necessarily a better team
More well-rounded.
tomorrow, because I think they're a worse team today than they were yesterday.
I'll even push back on that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. But like I think that they have an additional player that they know is factoring into their lineup today than they did yesterday. And whether that's right or wrong, I think that's what they value right now. They want NHL players.
And we were, I don't know how you guys fell on it, but like I liked the Savoy trade last summer.
I mean, it certainly turned out well. And I mean, that was something that I saw Sabres fans
it's
talk.
hard to say that. Like
Well,
it's
in
kind
the
of the same
immediate-
thing with this deal where it's like it could age really well, but it also could age very poorly.
I think it turned out well for like ultimately, even if Savoy is a good player, it wouldn't have mattered for the Sabres because they would have been past whatever this window is. They would have probably had to blow it up. So like in the immediacy for what the Sabres are, I think it was good. And I thought that was one thing I saw Sabres fans talking about was like, ultimately we're going to have to judge this like on our own. It like ultimately like that trade was good for the Buffalo Sabres.
Mm-hmm.
It made them a better team, even if ultimately 10, 15 years down the line, they've lost the trade. So, yeah, the thing that gets me is that, like, even if it makes the Sabres better, it makes them more vulnerable at the things they were bad at, which namely is the power play. Like, they were a really good 5-on-5 team. They were terrible on special teams. And now you took one of your power play goal scorers off the team with no clear replacement yet. So that worries me as the Buffalo Sabres. But the offseason's not over. This team has a lot of money, and I think a lot of Sabres fans viewed this immediately as like Terry Pegula being cheap, but I am an eternal optimist. Maybe they're gearing up to wildly overpay for somebody because that's what they have to do to get them.
It does. I mean, I did see that it does save them so much money. So if you are a Terry Pegula's cheap guy and you look at that and you go from what do they make next year combined? I think like 2.5 under the. But like you're trading young players for young players.
But what are they going to make in a few years?
Yeah.
Like you get 1 year of Kesselring on his current deal, and I don't know what Doan's situation is, but it might be the same thing.
Yeah, this would be his 3rd year of his entry-level contract.
I think those are still 2 players that are in manageable positions. I mean, who
Yeah,
knows
no
what'll
matter
happen
what-
this year, but like I think they'll be able to manage those contracts. But again, it ultimately depends on what you do with the rest of it. Like they're clearly like if the season starts today and they don't have made any more moves, like this is a failure. Like the front office needs to be cleared out. Like everything needs to change. So,
But Byram's going to be gone.
in theory, yeah, you would think. I would like hopefully, and we'll see what that means. Because if it means like a bottom 6 forward and a bottom 6 or a bottom 4 D man, like that's not good. The team's not
Right.
better.
Yeah, like are they just going to keep trading these guys for like 80 cents on the dollar?
that's what they
and
did.
Just like filling out their roster with, I don't want to say like mid players, but players that maybe are punching above their weight class. I do wonder if they find a way to package Byram with the 9th pick.
Yeah,
So,
because that's where I'm thinking Kyrou.
Because the 9th pick to me is like, well, if they don't want these future assets so bad that they're like not going to do a Marco Rossi trade, why do they want the 9th pick?
And that's the other thing I was going to say about the Rossi trade is that, like, I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts here. I obviously have reason based on the last few years to doubt Kevin Adams. Like, just because, like, if you can get Marco Rossi and picks, it doesn't mean you have to make those picks. Like, it just gives you more assets to flip in a different trade, potentially. And obviously, like, that's not a guarantee, so you could end up just having those picks. But, like, I don't know. Like, I think looking at a potential Marco Rossi trade as simply a player that you, like, an undersized player, whatever, and picks that you don't need is a bad way to look at it because you could use those picks for something other than just drafting a prospect.
Would you, if let's say Roger McQueen falls, the big 6'5" center. Let's say that he falls a little bit in the draft, and you're the Sabres. Do you completely rule out the idea that you're still getting young guys and that you're still kind of acting like you're in a rebuild? Because part of that trade last night did make me think the Sabres want to be done with their rebuild, but the world maybe keeps telling them that you're not done rebuilding. And they got older by getting Kesselring for Peterka, but that's still a kind of rebuild-ish type of move, having to trade off your 23-year-old star before he gets his big contract. Say a McQueen is there at 5 or 6 or something, and you're at 9. Do you want to move up, or do you want to get it out of your head that you're still living in that world?
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. Like, ultimately, I don't think anyone they draft in this draft, unless they're moving up to get like Schaefer or Misa, is going to ultimately. What's that?
Good luck.
Exactly. Like, it's going to.
I want Misa on this. I've wanted Misa on the Sabres since fucking day one.
Like, ultimately, I don't think it's going to factor into their goals of winning a Stanley Cup. So like,
I think maybe baby steps.
Yeah, I don't think Tage Thompson's going to factor into their goals of winning a Stanley Cup. But yeah, it ultimately won't matter to me. I don't want them to move up and set like. I guess if it's like later draft picks, then it's whatever. I certainly don't want them like losing players off their current roster to move up in the draft. So like, yeah, ultimately I don't really care too much what they do at the draft as long as they're not losing assets.
We do have a statement from Kevin Adams.
Give it to me.
It said, one of our priorities as we work through this offseason, making our team more competitive and tougher to play against. The additions of Michael and Josh will help us tremendously in both those categories, and I am excited to see them in Sabres uniforms soon. Michael fits the mold of a right-handed defenseman we've been looking for, and we are thrilled he brings both size and compete. We believe he will help add balance to our blue line while elevating the rest of the D-core. Josh is a player that has shown the ability to win at multiple levels and brings great leadership pedigree to our organization. He's a strong two-way player who we believe will be able to provide versatility to our group.
What's missing from that? What is missing from that?
Any mention of JJ Peterka or whatever he did or did not bring to the Buffalo Sabres. That is a big fuck you on the way out the door.
Yeah.
At least in my perception.
Which I don't have a problem with. Like, I don't have a problem if our GM wants to get a little gritty. It'd be the first time somebody in the franchise did.
Again,
like,
but it's like, why did he want out? And that's to me, and that's why I understand all of the frustrations that come from the Buffalo Sabres. Their fan base is just like, how many times are you putting yourself through drafting and developing and seeing a player like kind of endear themselves to you, only to have to trade them for less than perceived value because whatever isn't there in Buffalo has driven them away. And that to me is like, it's just got to be so exhausting and so frustrating to have to continuously go through that.
I do think part of it like lies at JJ Peterka's feet. Like, there have been better young players who have been through worse with this team and have stuck with it.
I definitely agree with that.
So like, I by no means, like, I am a huge player empowerment guy. Like, I don't by any means feel like somebody is obligated to waste prime parts of their career on a franchise that they don't think is going anywhere. But like, I think, yeah, if there are other guys that are currently in that locker room who have stuck around through worse, like, I understand Kevin Adams in that front office being like, you know what, go fuck yourself. You're a 23-year-old kid and you don't have that cachet yet. So if you want out, bon voyage.
Okay, last thing on this. Does this change Utah's plans in free agency? Because they still do have money. We have thought, and a little birdie told us, to link Brad Marchand to them. This, to me, kind of doesn't totally take them out of the Brad Marchand business, but at least for me, moves them more into the John Tavares business.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand that. They did just like acquire a premier winger, so I think that maybe there's less of an appetite to go out and get another one. But also, like, when I think about Brad Marchand and what he would bring to the Mammoth, again, it goes back to a lot of these players lack sort of that grit or other elements outside of high skill offensive production.
I mean, they're just young, right?
You need more of that experience. You need more of that sandpaper. You need more of dynamic elements that you can bring to this lineup, and I think Brad Marchand would still fit those gaps.
Yeah, they have $14.98 million in cap space, and after next season, they will need to pay Logan Cooley, and Barrett Hayton's up after another year after that. So they've got, we've talked about it before, they're one of those teams that like their cap space number really isn't their cap space number, because it's not like, oh, with this cap space, you can go sign someone to a 7-year deal at huge money, because in 3 years, you're going to need that guy's money to pay Logan Cooley or whoever it may be. But I think they're still very much in the business of going after an aging veteran forward for like 2 or 3 years.
I just wonder how much, like, how far GMBA is willing to go with small players. Like, I know,
talking about Marchand?
Yeah, like I know he's different. He obviously adds stuff to the team, but like presumably you still have him playing on like a second or third line, and
he'd also teach.
what
I
he wants to do?
mean, what better example for young players though to learn that you are not limited by your height.
Right, you don't have to play small.
yeah, I don't know if Logan Cooley or Dylan Guenther has that in their bag necessarily.
If he makes Logan Cooley into an asshole, he will be a 0th ballot Hall of Famer. He just, as soon as he is retired, PK Subban style, his number is retired immediately throughout the entire league.
I'd like to see it.
That's what I do if I'm the league.
I did say
Here's my thought on the Josh Doan thing is, I wonder if there was any part of them that was like, get Josh Doan out of here. We are no longer the Arizona Coyotes.
Well, Wish
I don't think that that's actually true, but it did cross my mind.
Wish did tweet that. He was like, this is the biggest, like, we're not in Arizona anymore sign since changing the name. And like, I do wonder, I was thinking about that last night. Like, if you could give GMBA a truth serum, like, there's no way. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have traded Josh Doan in Arizona. It would have been a lot harder. And so I wonder if there was a sense of freedom being like, these people aren't connected to him the way that they were in Arizona.
It happens though. I mean, like the Bruins traded Ryan Donato, which Ted Donato is not Shane Doan, but still, that was like when they drafted him, everyone was like, ugh, Nepo pick, great. And then they saw what he did at World Juniors, and like Boston fans were obsessed. It's easy to forget that for a while, people were like, they got Charlie McAvoy and Ryan Donato coming. This is the future. And then they just fucking trade him. And it's like, oh, well, fuck me.
It didn't help in Arizona, too, that the team was playing in an arena that Josh Doan basically built. Like, it was a brand new hockey arena that doesn't exist without Josh Doan kind of being the face of that program. So it was a lot. Like, I have to imagine it was a lot easier to get rid of him in this circumstance.
I don't think this is the last thing we react to from the Utah Mammoth, and I definitely don't think it's the last thing we react to from the Buffalo Sabres. And if it is,
better not be.
Yeah.
We all silly like the mayor.